Focus on the savvy side of 9 to 5 with the Focus Group.
Try, really try.
Listen, laugh, and learn with Tim and John.
I never try anything. I just do it.
I want to do my, what's his name, my David Muir pose.
Hey, welcome back to the Focus Group. John Nash with Tim Bennet, and sitting right next to me is none other than Keith Price.
Hello. Hey, boys.
How are you doing, my friend?
I'm fabulous. Thank you for having me. This is kind of fun.
It's a pleasure.
Like, everybody has their glasses off, so I want to look young. Hold on.
Well, listen, if you don't have to read anything, yeah.
Oh, I can read, though. Hey.
Can you read without your glasses?
Yeah, if it's like right there.
Is it real? I'm different. I have to be further away.
Yeah.
I only use reading glasses, though, and I try to not.
You hardly ever wear them.
I don't. Yeah. Well, I don't mind them, but a friend of mine said he started wearing reading glasses, and he looks at spreadsheets a lot. Mm-hmm. So many weeks later, I see him for lunch, and he said, try your best not to start it because you'll never be able to stop. Once you start doing it, your eyes get used to it.
Yeah, you guys get used to the glasses. And then, of course, after a while, especially if you have prescriptions, it just gets worse and worse.
That's what his fear was.
If I go to a store and I forget them, I'm walking around Target with the tag on because I'm using the readers from Target. But.
I've had times where I've asked people to read a number or something. Oh, yeah. So, what are you up to?
What am I up to? Oh, my God. Well, let's see. Since last we've seen each other.
Well, I was going to say many people. So we have some new listeners, we hope. But so Keith was a colleague of ours at OutQ, and Keith did the morning show with Larry Flick on Sirius XM OutQ, which a lot of us are.
We're all veterans.
We're all veterans of, and we've had Frank.
We survived long.
Such a long war.
I think we've had everybody. We've had most of the talent cycle through, and we've been trying to get you for a while.
I know.
And so the fact we're doing evening was good because we're able to get you on.
And I feel like I don't think I was incommunicado, but I don't think that I was really near other folks, any of our peers. I wasn't anywhere in the vicinity circling them because, like, we all kind of had to go off and do things for ourselves. And so I've re-engaged my life as a comedian again, which is something that I kind of like let go for those 10 years that we were at OutQ. And now I'm podcasting and doing my own theater energy. Like that was the thing, like when we guys started to hang out together then, that was the beginning of all of that. And then of course it got to bloom and grow.
Yeah,
because
you did a couple specials on OutQ.
Yeah, I used to. At one point, I was almost doing a monthly special.
It was a lavender.
Well, no. That was the Lavender Laugh Lounge was the thing we were going to try to do with comics. It didn't go very well, and then it was the behind the curtain specials. That's what I was doing.
Now, Lavender Laugh Lounge, though,
yes,
conceptually,
it's coming back.
Conceptually, I always loved the idea.
Mm-hmm.
So was it an executional issue? Like I'm curious from a creative point of view.
It wasn't an executional issue. It was more of a support issue.
Like in financial support.
Okay, you could say that too. But I'm just saying that in the platform energy that I was trying to create, there was not a lot of support.
Got it.
Yeah, you have to let people know it's there.
You have to let people know it's there, and if you only let it happen once and then go, I don't know, it's kind of hard to see how it grows.
Yeah.
I mean, especially when you're in the environment.
Right.
It's, I noticed that, a lot of things that we saw while we were there is that when people came in to do new things, they were kind of given a 6
weeks
kind of to pull it together, figure it out.
Well, they would spend it up front and then let it slide after that. But that's we talk about this sometimes on our show here now, which is
I feel like I'm showing too much cleavage.
We talk about this notion that that's just their business.
It's a business model.
That's their business model. They'll launch something and then kind of let it out there and hope to hell that in the media world we live in now, content everywhere, that people are just going to find it.
Well, they're going to find it, or they're going to be following it on the Twitter, or liking it on the Facebook, and the more likes you have, for some reason, translates into more people that are really paying attention, which in actuality we both know is not the case.
It's all bullshit.
It's all bullshit. The engagement. It's like you could tell by the engagement of people. Like some may have 500 followers and they post something and 100 people like it, do something. It's like, that's what, a 20% kind of thing. And that's about as really fabulous as you're going to get. When you start talking about people that have, hundreds of thousands of followers, and then, they put something out there and 3 people respond to it, then you kind of know that that's a little bit,
We just had this conversation before the show. A listener sent us a really great letter that he is buying a VW based on their support of the show.
Right.
Tim said to me, wasn't that a great letter? And then he said, I looked at I tried to correlate his name to any of our social media accounts, and he goes, and like we suspect, like our example is, I watch Meet the Press every Sunday. I don't go to the website.
No.
I don't go to the Twitter account.
No.
I don't like
No.
the Facebook
page.
I watch
No.
the show on TV. That's that.
Right, because you're not 21 needing to be
I'm not
plugged
even.
in.
I'm not even sure that a lot of. I think I have a lot of friends in their 20s, and they're not even as plugged in as that. So,
Because it's already passe for them.
and they're using social differently.
Yeah.
That's the pictures on Instagram. It's a whole different story. They're telling stories, and they're not necessarily interested.
Well,
in...
it's everybody's opportunity, I think, to have a moment. And that's what all of that stuff becomes. The question is that are you going to have a huge sum total of moments that are going to make a significant difference for people in business? Or are you going to have a huge significant, you know what I'm saying? Or are you just like, oh my God, he's so social. That's what you get when you do that, But oh well.
All right, so
Talk to me.
Comedy.
Working on my now 3rd one-man show. It's part of the Ebony Chunky Love series.
Wear a wig?
No, I
it
just
should.
feel it. I feel it. I don't need it. I can feel it. And it's I guess now it's part of a trilogy, I guess, at this point. And the first one, of course, was Ebony Chunky Love, Bitch Can't Get a Date, during a single period.
Are you still with your man?
No, we broke up at the beginning of the year. I know.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Well, you guys were together a long time.
Almost 8 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to put the
I
brakes
was like,
on.
Well, it
which I will
happens.
be exploring a lot in the 3rd show.
Hey, listen, look,
Which
it worked for Adele.
Hey, you know what I'm saying? Her and Taylor fucking Swift.
Hello from the other side.
I'm sorry. Did I I'm not supposed to swear? What's going on?
No,
Okay.
it's
More prime time.
Oh, hey. Stop with puff. Yeah, and so I'm getting back to doing that, and I've been doing open mics and stuff like that, just to get back into the swing of it. And
that
then
means you go up. You attend an open mic, and
you show up. You have your material. You do your things. You work on some new stuff if you have it. You tweak some of the old things you
And
got.
people don't realize how hard that is. It is a hard thing to do.
It's hard. It's hard, especially when you are extremely new, especially now. I mean, I'm talking like I've been doing this off and on now for almost 30 years. So it's sort of like when I think of these kids that are, just rolling in because they think this is the moment they're going to have, and you're like, you don't understand the things you have to go through. And I think the most important part for me has been that at this age now, we're now men of a certain age.
back to the way
We're invisible.
We're invisible. And now that I'm at that age, it's sort of like there's a certain level of confidence that comes with that. And there's a certain level of understanding of my own personal experiences that I bring. Because my comedy tends to be more of my personal energy that I look at things in the world, but it's always my energy about the way I look at them. Like, I did this joke the other day, and honestly, it wasn't even really more of a joke. It was more of an observation. I was on the subway, and they have these new ads for this drug called naloxone.
I saw one. What is that?
Okay, when I used to work in the hospital as a clerk, naloxone was a drug they called Narcan. That was the name.
For heroin, right?
For heroin and
overdose.
overdose. And so what they would do is that they give it to them, and it's like literally could flush it all out of you. So now, because of opiate addiction, I've learned that there are prescriptions available for people to have that at home.
Wow.
Have that as part of your personal
case
stash.
of
In case of an
overdose.
Right. And so the thing that got me was it's all of the testimonials that you read on the thing. And it's like, one of them was my ex-husband or something was a heroin addict or a thing. And thank God we had naloxone in the home. And I thought to myself, oh my God, like, what happened to the party? You know what I'm saying? We come from this generation where a little pot, maybe a little bump of something, and then you got the cocktail and you dance all night. That's pretty much the 80s and 90s for us, right?
Now advertising Subway is featuring a product that can bring you back from an overdose.
Right.
I mean,
and then the other thing is that they had another one where the said my best friend came from the apartment next door and I brought the thing because I found him slumped over. And I thought, what kind of people are you hanging out with that you have to worry about the fact that they might OD when you're out on the dance floor? Like, what kind of stuff is that? And I'm like, you kids today. that's a kids today moment,
And that's a whole nother, because that hooks into the whole opioid thing, which I think I don't really see, but it's near you.
It's near you. I mean,
neighbors of ours upstate lost a child to it. They have another one struggling with it, and but I mean by that I mean it's peripheral. Like it's not.
I blame pharma and the doctors. I mean, why are they prescribing it?
Well, I mean,
when I got my meniscus disc fixed, they gave me a pill, Vicodin or something. I took Tylenol. I was fine, but a bottle of that's what happens.
Well, again, depends on what your budget is that month. That's rent. Shit. Anyway, so
sugar, that's rent.
Honey, what? And
I should have sold those. I should have sold those pills. X amount per.
Honey. See, that's because y'all still got like real jobs, so you don't have to worry about how you're gonna get that little extra income. Bitch like me, always thinking.
You got to do it.
You got to do it.
So you're still doing the comedy thing, and then you also have Curtain Call, which is a podcast. So tell us about that and how people can find it.
All right. Well, first of all, it's Keith Price's Curtain Call, and it is my personal. There, oh, look at that. Y'all got y'all are so smooth up in here. Look at that.
You got to thank.
We took night classes.
Yeah, and then they got masters in the booth. So we took a class, but they know way more.
Get out of town. See, this is what happens when you have a real staff.
Support.
You got to stuff the diaphragm. But the Curtain Call was the first thing that I started immediately. And I mean immediately after the end of the Sirius time tenure for me. And part of it was because I had to stay active and I had to find something that was going to keep my mind off of what am I going to do next and how am I going to figure out what I'm going to do. And it was great because many of the people that I worked with when I was at Sirius putting the behind the curtain specials together and then when I would do the backstage skinny moments on the show, they stayed with me. And almost immediately after, I got a phone call from my wonderful friend Chad Dugat, so I'm going to give him a shout out to folks at Hanger Studios and Pro Media Studios, and Joey D. And Joey D. That's my man.
It's like in Fargo. Go Bears.
Go Bears. Go Bears there. But he called me almost like a week after I did the Facebook message saying, my tenure at Sirius is now done. I'm going to look forward to the things to come. So that you can at least look dramatic when you're walking out. And
with a box.
Exactly.
A statue and
some
sad little toys from your desk. A stress
that
ball.
One plant.
Pair of focus group socks.
Exactly. Which I still have, thank you very much. Do not play. And I remember, it's like, and my friend Chad, he called me literally almost instantaneously after he saw the letter, and he said, listen, do you still have your theater contacts? And I go, I guess. I haven't been able to test them just yet. And he said, well, I have the studio. We do podcasts. We don't have a theater podcast. Would you like to come and be a part of this podcast family? And he goes, and do the things that you were meant to do. And it was one of those moments where you just realize that the backbone to that story is, this is why you should be nice to people, even though you don't know them. And I'll tell you why. Because that same person who called me used to sit next to me 5 years prior, right there at Sirius, in that same little pen that y'all used to see me in, when he was working for the Rosie O'Donnell show. And then one day, he was not there anymore. And I didn't really see where he was, but we used to, every day when I would get off the air, it's like, hey, how was your show? Hey, how were you doing? What's it like over there? Oh, I can tell you what's going on down there. And la 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 la. And we became
a work friendship.
It was a work friendship. And then when he called me and asked me to come do that 5 years later, after not physically seeing me and just peripherally doing the Facebook thing, And he brought me into that space. And I have to tell you that it has truly been a joy working out of the studio with these guys.
Wow.
The folks that run Pro Media are fabulous. And this is not to be, like, oh, shut up. But I mean, you have to remember that as much times as we complain about when shit's terrible and how awful people are and what work environments are like, you forget when you're in a good work environment that it is important to be just as grateful and just as vociferous about that as well. So I've been very fortunate that I found that little family to kind of go to next.
So
which is great.
what's your range of you can talk about anything you want on Curtain Call?
I can talk
are you focusing on new theater?
I
or?
focus on all aspects of theater in terms of front of the house, back of the house, on the stage. All the creatives. I love to talk to the directors. I love talking to playwrights. I love talking to the actors, of course, which is really great. But then you have these moments when you get to talk to composers. You get to talk to lyricists. One of my favorite things has been to talk to Sheldon Harnick, the guy who wrote Fiddler on the Roof.
Wow.
And Fiorello.
Wow.
Pulitzer Prize winning, Tony Award winning, at his house on the Upper West Side, just hanging out, chit-chatting with this legend. And to think that if I had stayed where we were, I probably would never have been able to have that opportunity because there were so many other
So people can find it. Is it through iTunes?
I'm on iTunes. I am on Google Play Music. I am on Mixcloud, SoundCloud, and just recently have been added to the BroadwayWorld.com's featured podcast.
Oh, excellent.
So now,
do you have a question for Keith?
Congratulations. Yes. No, I wanted to know. So a lot of people this time of year are going to be coming in to
make their trips.
Make their trips for the holidays and come to New York is magical during the holiday season.
Right.
If you don't live here.
If you don't live right.
Well, that tree's
such
a
that moment getting here today. I was
the
like,
tree's a disappointment, by the way. It's not worth the crowd. But it looks better on TV. But what's I don't even know. John and I were talking earlier. I don't even know what's hot right now. What's the hot thing? Like, what would you recommend, and what would you say? You might want to skip.
Or unexpected.
Or unexpected. Right. Okay. Well, what I generally do when it comes to like a recommendation, if you really are asking me for something specifically to see, I always like to know what kinds of things you personally enjoy when you go to the theater, because that makes a difference.
Right.
If you're not a play person,
I love plays.
You know what I'm saying? Then,
or if you want a comedy versus something kind of deep, or something makes a social statement versus just
being fluff.
Right.
But you have to. I feel like you always have to kind of engage a little bit to figure out exactly what works. Because,
that's a great idea.
Because things that I may love, you may hate.
Yeah.
And things that you really love, I'll be like, ooh, really?
Is there something you love right now?
I love a couple of things right now. My favorite has been so far, and it got brutally savaged, I think, in the Times and some of the other papers, this show called Prince of Broadway right now that's happening at the Manhattan Theater Club. It's this fantastic retrospective of some of the biggest works of the famed director Harold Prince.
When you said it, I thought, could it be him?
Yes. And
who
in
knows
that
Kathy
show,
Bean very well, who's been on our show. Yeah.
And it's one of these shows that if you are someone who, like I said, now this is the kind of show that I would recommend to someone who might think they like musical theater but not really sure. Because, one, you don't have to sit through an entire show and go through the arc of characters that you may or may not care about. You are getting the highlights of some of the absolute most fantastic pieces of shows that have ever worked on Broadway. And the cast. I don't know how to tell people. You don't realize the caliber of people that are on that stage working every night. It's Chuck Cooper, Tony Award winner Chuck Cooper. You got my Karen Ziemba, who I fucking love her, another Tony Award winner. Emily Skinner, who you might remember from not Trading Places, Sideshow.
Yeah.
It's like Trading Places. From Sideshow. Tony Yazbek, if you got to see him on The Town. The true freaking triple threat. That man is everything.
So where are they staging this?
At the Manhattan Theater Club
theater.
Space on 47th Street, the Samuel J. Friedman Theater, And again, it's one of those shows that I recommend because if you're not someone who knows a lot about Broadway, then there's a perfect general survey. It's like Musical 101.
So why do you think it got beat up in the Times?
I think that it got beat up because I for some reason, folks I don't know what they were expecting. Like
Yeah.
it's a review show. It's a musical review.
Got it.
So there's no real mystery. There's no real
But
thing.
it's not Priscilla Queen of the Desert, which someone called a jukebox musical.
Which is exactly what that is. It's a total jukebox musical.
That is, but
That is.
not Prince of Broadway.
But not Prince of Broadway in that these songs were already on Broadway. It's not like they're bringing in pop music
Right.
from
And
whatever
they're
the
hits.
day. And well, they're like
the shows.
the show's actual individual things. And you're getting Brandon Uranowitz. Some people forget Brandon. That's my baby. 2-time Tony Award nominee, Brandon Uranowitz. I got you, Brand. But these guys, there's like some new faces that were there that I didn't know. This young woman named Janet DeCall, who was in The Heights. There is the sister that is giving Liza Minnelli's version of Cabaret a run for that's money. Her name is, Brianna Palmer. Yeah, Brianna Palmer. And there's another girl, Kaylee Voorhees, I believe is the other
How
one.
long is this on for?
And Michael Xavier. I got to make sure to get them all because they are all
Talented.
the talent. Michael Xavier, if you got to see Sunset Boulevard this year before with Glenn Close,
Close.
he was the hunk of man in that show. And it is a true enjoyment thing. And then the thing that I'm looking forward to now as far as musicals is this new show that David Yazbek had called The Band's Visit that it's based on the movie.
Never even heard of it. The Band's Visit.
The Band's Visit. And it's one of these Palestinian, Israeli,
Fascinating.
stories where some band ends up in the wrong place. And they are trying to work it out through the music. And
Oh, my gosh.
David Yazbek, who is amazing, composer, lyricist.
So
who
is it a
working on the
comedy?
show. I don't think it's really a comedy. It's more like a dramatic something with a message.
Almost sounds a little Mel's Brook.
It should be Mel Brooks, but it's
yeah.
not. It's a little bit more serious. And then you can never go wrong off Broadway. That's the other thing that people forget.
Off-Broadway.
Is the off-Broadway theaters have really great shows that sometimes can talk about things that you can't see on a big commercial Broadway stage. And so there you are having all these great conversations. And that was what the summer was like. I'm actually getting ready to go see a show that's going to be opening, I think, next week called Desperate Measures. I'm seeing it in previews tomorrow. And it's this musical version of Measure for Measure, but they have it set in a different time period. And it's
musical. It's Shakespeare's
Shakespeare
Measure for
and they're kind of zhuzhing up the story with a whole different
Zhuzhing.
kind of giving a story. So, and that's over at the York Theater. But that's the kind of stuff that I would, say recommend.
I actually think you did a perfect job, and the Spectrum's great
Oh, thank you.
because I am now thinking of those three. I'm like, how
We're
long
going to
is
have to go see them. John.
Well, you have to go see the
Prince of-
Prince
probably
of
the
Broadway
Prince of
soon because I think it's closing near the
That's
end of
what I was
October.
curious.
That's the show you
because
should try to go
Manhattan
see.
Theater Club does.
Short runs
Yeah.
because they always have so many different great projects all at the same time. But I hope that it could find a bigger space and stick around a little bit longer because I think to me that is the perfect show that you could bring. That's the one you bring mama and daddy to. It's like everybody knows
That's a
if
great
I
idea.
were
That's a
a
great
rich
recommendation.
man.
That's a great recommendation.
It's filled with the hits,
And the thing that I love the most about it is that they were very conscious of making sure that there were people of color in this production because literally speaking, every show that they give,
originals,
the
yeah.
originals ain't nothing but white folks in them. And
Yeah.
to see someone like Tony Award winning Chuck Cooper sing If I Were a Rich Man and sing the bejesus out of that song, you're like, okay, and what he has done is he's made it possible for someone like me 10, 15, 20 years ago living in some small town to say, I could play Tevye.
Yeah, I can do it.
Tevye is not something
That's
I can't
fascinating.
use.
That is
Same thing with Tay
fascinating.
Diggs did Hedwig and the Angry
Yeah,
Inch a
that's
few years
fascinating.
ago. So
Well, on
there's
that
those
note,
moments.
Keith, as you know, time is always a thief on these sort of things. But we want. Can you stay with us? We're going to do.
Absolutely
We're going to
stay.
do a quick Tim's list,
Okay.
and
I'm down.
which we haven't done in a while. So,
You know the list.
so get your
You know the list.
get your
ready.
dialing fingers ready. 877-962-6846. We're going to do a quick interstitial. When we come back, we're looking for if you could pick a number 2 through 10.
2 through 10, 7.
So if you guess number 1 or number 7, you get a pair of our famous focus group radio socks. We're looking for the top 10 LGBT cities, the best gay and
Ooh.
lesbian cities or LGBT cities for 2017 in North America. Operative word, North
America. And Matt's, I think Matt's on
Matt's on
Facebook.
social media
Yeah.
as well, so
Hey,
he'll be able to
Matt.
let people know. So we're looking for number 1 and
gotta
number
wave.
7 for a pair of our socks. We'll be right back and finish up with Tim's list. And be sure to check out Keith Price at
Keith Price's Curtain Call. On Twitter, KP Curtain Call. Facebook, Keith Price's Curtain Call.
Curtain call.
Curtain call. Come, and just a curtain call.
That's the branding.
It's the Brandon, and it's fabulous.
We'll be right back after this quick break.